Okay, it is true for sure that if you have never seen a Laravel application or you have never worked with Laravel, you might be wondering, what with all these files, where do I begin from? And where do I know, how do I know what is what? So I want to remove that doubt from your head by telling you that we are just going to focus on a few directories or folders, and we are not going to work in each and every of these folders. So let's have a look at the directories that we are going to spend most of our time. And the first directory that is most important also is the app directory. So inside app directory, if we click here, we find that we have these folders, but I want us to have a look or to begin on HTTP folder and then this user.php file. Okay, two things: HTTP folder or directory and then the user.php. These are the folders that we are going HTTP folders we are going to spend a considerable amount of time, because it comprises of our controllers. So as you remember, when I was explaining the MVC pattern or architecture, I said model, view, and controller. And then this is view. Okay, so inside our app directory we have the controllers and the models. So let's have a look at the controller. So inside the HTTP directory, here is where we have this directory called controllers. And if we click here, you find that the first we have control.php, and this is a group of controllers. So you find out that all our controllers are going to create inside this controllers directory. Okay, so that is the first directory. And then what is for example, maybe you might be wondering, what are controllers? Controllers are responsible for our application logic. So handling logic, getting the data from the database and showing to the user. But before showing to the user, you might do some changes. That is the work of the controllers. View controllers as functions in our PHP application. Functions to do a specific task. And then the data that the user enters on the form on your website, the controllers take that data, customizes, and then passes to the models to save to the database. Okay, and then those are the control, and then we have the models. So what are models? View model as the database. Anything to do with database is dealt with using the models. Okay, close this. So anything to do with database, retrieving data from the database, retrieving data from the database. I don't know, it's a problem here. Just minimize it. Retrieving data from the database, storing data to the database, and doing other functionalities. That is the model that does that. Okay, so we have already looked at the model and view, and I mean model and controllers. We will look at the view as we continue. So those are the folders, the app folder and this file here, and inside we have this HTTP that has our controllers. So another this bootstrap has the cache, the application cache. But let us look at the config. Config directory has various configuration files. For example, database configurations, application configuration, and other configurations. For example, you can click on this database and you'll see the our database credentials. Okay, here you see our database credentials, and they are drawn from the .env file. I'm going to show you what it is. So from that we have this database, and inside the database we have the migrations, factories and seeds, but I want us to focus on the migrations for a while because you're going to use migrations. So what the hell are migrations? See migrations as a blueprint for creating our models. Okay, so let's say you want to create a table in the database, and that table is called posts. So all the fields for that table, you are going to set them in the migrations. Okay, and then after doing that, if you run the migrations, let's for example use the users migration. So create users, and then here you define the table columns. For example, you have the ID, the name, email, verify that this is a blueprint for creating that table. So when we run a command, that table is going to be created in our database. So that is the use of migrations. And we'll use migration to track our tables, because maybe you want to delete tables, you want to do some changes, you use the migrations where we'll be rolling back, refreshing and such like things. Okay, so from there we have from the database, another important folder is the resources. Okay, public folder. So public folder stores our public assets, static assets like CSS, images and other files. They are stored in the public directory. Okay, just see it as where our public assets or static assets are stored. And then after that, now we have the resources. So the resources is like the front end of our application. So all the files that are visible to the users are stored in resources directory. So for example, we have you can see JS, Lang, SAS and etc. And then you have the views. So inside the views is where the view lies in MVC. So that view lies in the view. So this is the part of the website where the user interacts with that application, where we can display forms, we can display user data, we can display data from the database. We do it in views here. Okay, so after that resources, we have the routes. So what are routes? Routes are like the path to certain web page. For example, if you have many web pages, PHP files in one document, you may be having an index.php file, you have about.php file that leads to about page, we have the contact.php that leads to contact page. So those are routes to those files. So that is what the routes stand for. So this is the routing of our application. We are not going to use API or channels or console. We are using web.php. And as you can see, the first route is this one. Okay, so it is a get route. It means that if somebody goes here, you need to load this page. Okay, and this page we saw it in resources. So take routes as pages of your website. For example, if I have a website that is www.example.com, so if I load this one and it is a PHP website, it is going to open the first, it might be index.html or index.php file. But then if I do to about, if I slash about like this, it might lead me to about us page. And so this one is the route. Okay, so for example, you can also do slash contact, and this is going to lead me to the contact page. So this is a route. This is the full URL, but these are the route to specific files of that application. So this is what we call routes. Okay, I think you understand. So up from that, we have the storage. That is where for storing the assets, okay, for storing files and what have you. And then we have the test, that is for testing application. Then the vendor, where a lot of modules to install or packages are stored, package files. And then we have these other configuration files. But most importantly, let's look at the .env file. So .env files contains configuration or application configurations, important configurations like keys, okay, like application keys, application name, application database, password. So that is a .env file. It's very important configuration file. And then we have the git ignore, you know what it is. Artisan, we are going to use so much. Composer.json, I know you know package.json if you have been using JavaScript. That is package.json is for installing the file that contains our JavaScript modules. Composer is the one that contains our Composer, our PHP modules or Laravel modules. These are the modules that you installed. If we go to package.json, these are JavaScript modules. Okay, so that is it about the introduction to Laravel architecture, or how the Laravel folders are laid and what each folder is used for, where it is situated and how useful it is. So I think that's a good introduction, and in the next section we will begin working on the application.